Well, it's another Monday and I'm long-winded, so this is take two. What do I got today? I got a gift for you, and I'm going to give it to you right after the opening here. I'm going to briefly talk about Mark Carney going down south. I'm going to briefly talk about oil. I'm going to briefly talk about the housing market here in Canada and what to expect in the next few months. I'm going to cap it off with geopolitics, what's happening down south, what's happening in Israel, and a little something that they don't seem to be talking about that much. But first up, a little gift for you. You can scan this code with your Spotify app and it'll bring you to that playlist. Given that Bad Bunny is going to be the halftime show of the Super Bowl, I think everyone should get up to speed on reggaeton and Europop. I have about 11 and a half hours of music right there. Look, I'm late to the party. I was introduced to reggaeton about 5 years ago. There's so much that I missed. I'm making up for it now. It's like all I listen to. So yeah, take a screenshot and then you should be able to scan this with your Spotify app and it'll take you to that playlist. All right, let's get to the news. OPEC Plus agrees to modest oil production increase for November. The wholesale price of gasoline is down to its lowest point in a year. Oil not quite to its lowest point in a year. I don't think it's going to fall that much. I think the increased production from OPEC Plus will force other producers to scale back what they're doing. We're already seeing that with falling rig counts in the United States. All right, Mark Carney's going down south to work a deal on these tariff things. This is pointless. I'm sure Pepe Le Poilievre and his supporters are going to be like, I get a no tariff deal, but there's no deal to be made. These people are lying pieces of shit. If there's any progress made on the current tariffs, they'll throw tariffs on something else. I said this from the get-go. I said that this whole tariff scheme is a way to move the tax burden onto regular people in the United States. That's all it is. And this will not stop. So, do I have high hopes for this? No, not even a little bit. All right, TD released this last week, Provincial Housing Market Outlook. I want to talk about it because there's some crazy talk happening right now, both to the positive and to the negative. Some people are saying there's going to be a huge price jump next year. No. Why would there be a huge price jump? There's no increase in population. The economy is shit. No, there's not going to be a big price jump. There'll be a modest price jump because the cost of production of houses is going up because the cost of material is going up because it always goes up. That may drag prices up a little bit, but we're talking a few percentage points. But then there's realtors who work exclusively in the condo market and they're like, oh my God, the sky is falling. Maybe for condos. Because, they built a whole bunch of shitty small condos that nobody wants. Those aren't going to move. Top of that, there's a whole bunch of small landlords that have been burned. They're not buying up these condos. No, they're not going to buy up these condos. Especially not when asking rents are falling. For decades in Canada, we've been building condominiums and selling them to small landlords as opposed to building dedicated rentals. Now that's changed. Now we're building a lot more dedicated rentals. So you can't move the condos to the small landlords. But the people saying this is going to bring the entire market down? No, it's a completely different market. Condos in Toronto or condos in general are not the same as a single family home. It's not the same buyers. And as I've said many, many, many times, the value of a single family home is supported by its replacement cost. All right. On my other account, I was talking about what would happen if we used this map of the United States like a war game. Like, what would I do if I wanted to make this all red? And I said, well, first I'd fortify my position over here, which is Washington, D.C., and then I would try and divide and conquer. So I would take out Illinois and I would take out California. Trump federalizes National Guard in Chicago while troops arrive in Oregon. Yeah, because they couldn't take California. So they're going for the next best position, which is Oregon. Divide and conquer. Trump reassigning California National Guard troops to Oregon. Interesting. Mark my words, New Mexico is going to have a quote-unquote crime problem in the next few months. Yeah, if this fails or that fails the way this failed, they'll just turn their attention to something else, like New Mexico. They'll cook up some story. Speaking of cooking up a story, look, here's the deal. Right there is the Suez Canal. The Suez Canal handles 12 to 15% of global trade and about 30% of global container traffic because if you can't go through the Suez Canal, you have to go around the Horn of Africa. The Suez Canal is controlled by Egypt, but it wasn't always like that. In 1956, Egypt nationalized the Suez Canal Company so that the profits from the canal could go to fund projects in Egypt to help the people of Egypt. Britain, France, and Israel had an issue with that because they had a stake in the Suez Canal Company. They lost a lot of money. They lost a lot of income. If they could only build another privately owned canal, there'd be so much money to be made. Oh, look! What is Israel's Ben Gurion Canal plan and why Gaza matters? Because the canal would go from here to there, and look, Gaza's in the way. As that intensifies, focus turns to controversial Ben Gurion Canal project originally proposed in the 1960s as an alternative to the Suez Canal. Follow the money. And that's a lot of money.